everybody on the board take a look at them.
I'll have that in a second.
Well, they got them too. They might have gotten them before the meeting. I have mine printed out here.
All right, y'all should be on the share screen now, and you should be able to see the minutes.
I know Kai will not be with us in person.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, how is he going to be with us then?
He has emailed me a couple times.
Yeah, I need to talk to him.
He emailed the explanation you were looking for.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see it.
To Greg, so I don't know. I got a phone, so I'm picking it up on that. All right, guys.
These are the minutes.
I need one person to make a motion to approve the minutes, please. Joe?
Second.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay.
All right. The biggest report, the treasurer's report, do you have one, Greg? Do you have it in a form we can take a look at?
Not in a format, no, but like I said, I can have it posted, I'll have it posted by tomorrow.
All right.
So you can look at it. These are the minutes for tonight. This is the agenda for tonight, Paul?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
I have it. If anybody else needs it, do you need to leave it up there?
I can leave it up there if you want.
Fine by me. I have them printed out.
What I want to make sure is if anybody comes in while we're
That's all right. We'll be discussing it. They're not going to miss it if they don't see what's.
well, I just want to know which club they're with so they get credit.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Treasurer's report we don't have, but we're going to post every, I was talking to Greg, we'll try and post every 2 months. We were. And, hey, Sherry, didn't you have it in the form where it was the budget versus actual versus what we budgeted?
Sure, that can be ran through, we can run a report through QuickBooks. As soon as Greg says everything's balanced out, we can run a report.
Yeah, that's, I think, more, I mean, I think we decided that was more information than the P&L. P&L's good, but that.
You want budget versus
how you're doing, where you're at as far as the expenditures go.
Okay, you want budget versus actual?
Yeah, I think, and Sherry, you had a form. You kind of morphed the numbers into it. Is that how you got that? Was it an Excel spreadsheet of some sort?
Yeah, it's just something we exported from QuickBooks. But yeah, we can do it. Not a problem.
Okay. I mean, if it's too tough, I don't want to do it.
We can post. No, it's not hard.
I never see anybody's numbers, so and ours need to be transparent. I know nobody else's are, but ours need to be. And,
Victor, what club are you with? Victor?
I think he's North Lakeland.
Yeah, I'm going to say he may be with the same club I'm with.
Oh, good.
Okay.
That's right. Hey, all right, next, the vice president's report. Anything, Steve, you got anything from the girls? Steve?
He's on mute.
Hold on. Sorry. No, I was in mute. Sorry.
All right.
No, the only thing I've got is this coach or this director of Baltimore. I don't know, is having an issue with the referee. He's trying to explain himself when the referee doesn't want to hear it. But I think we got it under control. I think I'm okay with his explanation, and I don't think we need to suspend.
No, that's silly. It's just
oh my God!
Want to hear it? Joe's trying to explain something to him. Hey,
don't worry, Joe. You don't have to explain yourself. I get it.
I'm freaking trying to apologize to the guy, and he goes to work on me.
When I started reading that, I'm going, that's Joe. I'm like, what?
I don't have to put up with this. Hey, Joe, welcome to the board.
Oh my God.
Do you where it gets you? Just get you flogged, buddy.
We appreciate your explanation, Joe. That explains it all. So I make a motion to drop it.
Well, there's nothing. Nobody's.
Thank you.
Nobody's put a complaint in. Just
all right. No,
two emails that don't. It's fine.
No, No, not from the girl side of things. You
All
know,
right. The
everything
junior
seems to be
season
quiet.
just started. I know Mike will be here later, I'm sure. And the senior boys are just about done now. Greg, the only thing we've got to follow up is we aren't. What did we do about junior games? I guess, Sherry, did you move all the games from the Minnesota home fields?
We're in the process of, yes. But Esther's been very good about making the contacts and then letting me know, and then we're moving them as
Okay.
it confirms everything. Mhm.
I see we've got some just in the. I might as well do it here. I see we've had 2 or 3 reports. People, I think it was, who was down there? Dunedin was down there, and then another issue. Someone got punched, and they felt under some pressure. I guess that the couple of was it Dunedin teams? Am I correct?
Dunedin was concerned, and then I think I saw another report last night. Was that Dunedin as well?
No.
I have to look.
That actually was Esther complaining about something that happened at Braden River.
Braden River, that's what it was. Yeah.
And I sent a letter. I sent a longer email out. I copied you and Greg to take a look at it.
I saw it. Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. The problem with people calling each other out because they're Hispanic or not Hispanic or Lithuanian or something else is something that is pitiful. But it happens, and we've got, like I said to her, we have a number of majority Hispanic clubs. It's not just them. There's 5 or 6 easy that are mainly Hispanics, and you just hope to God that you don't have to listen to that. And a lot of the non-Hispanic, in other words, the clubs that are not majority Hispanic, have many clubs have a lot of Hispanic players. You would think by now that issue is kind of I don't know, it worked itself out since you got people on your own team that call names, I guess. But I said to her, I can't. It's awful, and if we can identify who it is, if the ref will identify it as bad language or something like that, then you can do something. But if the ref doesn't do anything, we're stuck with the same report. It's he said, she said. So I don't, But the second thing is that you can't. That's not an excuse for players, coaches, and spectators to act out. I wanted to reiterate that point, that that's not enough, because that's what we hear too often, is that they were justified somehow in creating a violent act because they didn't like what someone said to them. Well, that just can't work for us, for our league. That can't work, So let's just. Hopefully she got it, read it, and knows. But I agree with her. I mean, it's a pain in the butt to have to go somewhere and get called out. I can't imagine, by the way, that Brendan or anybody, our former. I know Mark, if he was alive, would not put up with it either. If he was there or Brendan was there, that's not the type of behavior that they would condone at Braden River. That's not what they're about. So I think that's the other thing. I think if she just sends a note over to Brendan and say, hey, this is an allegation, because and it wasn't from Esther. It was from they have a coach's mentor, I guess. That's who it was. And I think it's good. We got a guy now going to the games and looking after the behavior. I think that's wonderful. So
this is David from Braden River. If I could get a copy on whatever you send to Brendan, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, well, she would have to send it to Brendan, but Sherry, if you would send that to him, to David, because it's not a game that was there, David. And again, it's an allegation. It was nothing that the center did not write anything, so we don't know. It gets.
Well, you don't know the whole story. You really
exactly.
don't. You only get one side of it. Yeah.
But
you never will, and it'll always be different from both sides.
Yes.
Yeah, I just like to know as much as I possibly can about it.
You'll at least see that what was written, and I did write her a fairly in-length email back to say that's not knowing the club. That's not a pattern that anybody there would be comfortable with. And David, it's an assertion. who said what to who, when, and how it was said when a ref can't hear it is difficult for us to jump in the middle of, and we're not gonna. But I like the fact that they're sending someone to their games and monitoring. And I think that's fantastic. Where we're getting somewhere as far as the the issues we've had this year at Minnesota. I think as far as understanding that they got to fit into the league here. As far as behavior. So that's all I got for that's and that was a boys under 14. That was a junior boys event. So, all right. President's report. I don't have anything to report except two things. One, we did get a missive from Mike Goodman. And, Mike, for you guys on the board, and you guys don't know, Mike runs a North Florida soccer league. And he just sent us an email out of the blue saying, are you having an unusually bad time with behavior and parents this year? And
Yep.
Yeah. Well, but I don't know, without one of the things I always say, without some kind of verification. In other words, if you knew last year you had 23 events, it gets to the middle of the season. And I was talking before the thing about Greg. It gets to the middle of the season, everybody thinks you're just tired of hearing them. It's like every week you got another one. But to say that it's appreciably worse, it sure seems like it is. It seemed like it was getting better. Now it seemed like it dusted up. But we may not be anywhere close to where we were 5 years ago. I don't know. Without keeping track of them, it's all opinion, and you never know. But Mike actually was noticing. He said he was having real extensive issues with behavior. So it's that, and the referees are a constant. It's a problem. The behavior from the coaches and spectators, and this is the 50th time I've said it, really goes to keeping especially young people out of the center of that field. Young people who are fit, who know the game, but do not want to listen to a bunch of morons screaming him about something that he has nothing to do with. That is not can't respond to. So that's the president's report. It's just bear with it. It's the middle of the season. It seems like right about now the behavior gets intolerable. And I'll tell you, between now and Christmas, I found every year, like right before Christmas, like the 2 weeks before, it would be the wackiest thing. People would be just, because of the pressure of Christmas, getting, doing all the things, the financial pressure, maybe buying gifts. People just, fell apart. So don't expect it's going to.
Well, let me tell you this, and you bring up financial, and if you don't mind me just speaking on the issue for a second, I agree with you on that. I agree with the fact that people, there a lot of times they're just taking out other things out in a place where they find they can do it and take it out on someone else, But what's really happening too is that I'm finding this to be the case, and even on the recreational side is, because they're starting to pay so much money for our clubs, and especially on the competitive side, but even on the recreational side, we're paying all this money. I hear it all the time. We're paying all this money. They're expecting perfection. I mean, from referees, from clubs, from the organizations of stuff like that. So they're feeling justified in being able to say that, when we pay $1,000 to play competitive soccer, and that's on the low side, I expect to have a perfect ref out there. They don't think about that it's not a perfect world. They don't think about that, no matter how much money you pay, there's going to be imperfections, okay? They feel that it's an entitlement society, and I'm seeing it in the high school with the kids. It's like, no, you give it to me because I'm paying for this or because I deserve it, not, and they're becoming less and less tolerable of lesser quality because they're paying so much money. So I think finances and I think money come into play with it. Although it shouldn't, because we can't control it. They feel it should be a perfect situation out there because I pay this much money or I pay that much money. Or going back to what we said before, we were talking before the meeting, that's not fair and life should be fair. and they can't accept it. So that's just my 2 cents on the whole thing. But
yeah, as we get, when we
you
get
know.
to old business number 5, I think Greg we went back through Greg had a meeting with the assigners and
Yeah.
tighten up the ref a little bit, or just explain some of the rules that we are most concerned about having followed.
And the biggest thing I think is the inconsistency, and that we can't control either. There's going to be some good refs and some bad refs.
This thing with the refs,
You know.
though, Steve, we've got to, before this year ends, somebody smarter than me has got to come up with something to improve the recruitment and holding refs. Something that actually works and something that actually is we're able.
Well, the problem is you have to have a third party, and again, we'll discuss this later. But I think a third party person that's watching, doesn't even have to be a ref. They just have to be knowledgeable of the rules that are holding them accountable in some way or another. It has to be a position where they're holding them accountable, because I'm not saying this because I don't know if Merit's online or not. But, refs are going to, ref assigners are going to protect their refs. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't often get a referee assigner that says, oh, yeah, he's really a bad ref and I'm going to reprimand him, or I'm going to say this, I'm going to say that. You can go through your referee assigners all you want. But the bottom line is 99% of the time, it's the club or the one of the directors that has to explain to that ref. I mean, I had to go out to an experienced ref once and tell him about the rules of U10, that there is offsides. And I'm like, and he's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, how did you not know that?
When am I supposed to work?
So I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
Everyone, I want one, but do not this big. Small.
Hey, folks, whoever's got their mic on arguing with somebody, could you please mute?
Yeah, just mute the mic, whoever it is. Hey, so let's start old business, right, Steve? As we get into this, we'll play into that a little bit. Season's underway. Sherry, I'm assuming this is your reminder to follow rescheduling rules.
Yes, that's
As
me.
usual, we probably have 5,000 reschedules already. I mean, what I've seen is just, it's a blizzard.
It's crazy. I've never seen so many. And I mean, until we change the rules, we have the rules in place, so we'll go through the process. But my concern is people are either not aware of the rules or they're just opting not to follow the rules. And it's really creating a lot more problems than I've seen in the past. So I don't know if we need to maybe send out some sort of directive about it again. I'm open to suggestions.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest with you. We've in our meetings, we've made some assumptions that a lot of these people know, and we may be getting a lot of new people cycling through, and clubs are maybe not educating them as much. And because we used to have the whole, this is exactly what you do and blah blah blah. Now we're just kind of, and I don't blame you, we're just going to kind of give them the rules and explain it to them quickly. I think I agree that maybe we need to have either in our coaches meeting or at some point another rules explanation, for that. And then, like I said, you may also have coaches that show up to these coaches meeting but don't relay the rules to the team managers.
Right.
Yeah, but Steve, we at the coaches meeting, both coaches meeting, all 3 coaches meetings, we made it a extra special point that these reschedules they're too many, it's difficult.
Right.
There is a protocol, and that hasn't changed any. We haven't changed anything.
Right, but I think you got a lot of new teams coming in, and
but
new
the
team
rules
managers.
are simple, and the other thing is we've got 2. I mean, Greg and Sherry are more available than any people on earth. I don't care if it's the NFL.
Gentlemen, I don't know.
Phone and say, "Hey, man, I got to reschedule this. What's the problem?" And you say, "Well, what do you do?" We've had all kinds of last minute stuff that really we understand, but it's not the same club.
I don't know the process.
Oh, we had you. We lost you.
Doesn't matter.
So I am in this meeting for the first time in many years, and I've known, I think, everyone in this meeting for many, many more years than this. I'm calling in because I have a coach who's been fined by the USA League because he rescheduled the game due to being called to the Panhandle for a hurricane.
Right.
And this coach, who knows the rules, as I know the rules, did not have the opportunity to reschedule via the 21-day rule because it was literally within 24 hours that he was notified
was called. Yeah.
in the Panhandle. And this gentleman, as myself and our entire club, we do not want to lose games. We are in a division that has a grand total of 4 girls teams. We do not want to learn. We do not want to lose games. And he went out of his way to contact me from Tallahassee because Mexico Beach had no signal to tell me that he was on literally a search and recovery mission. He is literally looking for dead bodies.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the Braden River coach, who is over an hour away from us, to reschedule a game. And granted, I did not do this through God Soccer. I did this the fastest, quickest way possible, which is, again, a simple phone call.
Right. But even, and just so, because I am in charge of the girls, and not that this maybe is the place to discuss this issue, but I mean, we completely, anyway, and I know all of us here on the board completely understand that situation is an uncontrollable, unavoidable situation. And I by no means, as the vice president or anything, would recommend that there be any kind of fines or any kind of forfeit that would go in there, or,
I'm sorry, Steve, is this Steve Emerson?
This is Steve. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Steve Emerson.
Steve, sorry.
So, with that.
I'm sorry, let me continue if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Since it's on
this past weekend, we had already arranged with Braden River to go down to Braden River to spare them the over-hour drive north.
Right.
And we would play a doubleheader there. But we got information from the USA League stating that we are being fined, my coach is being fined, $250 times 2.
Right. But did the USA League know the circumstances, or did just Braden River know the circumstances?
Absolutely. Braden River, I spoke to the coach personally. I spoke to the manager personally. I then followed up with an email. I copied Sherry Doback on that email.
Okay.
And these are the things, these type of rescheduling things are the things that are hindering girls soccer. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the numbers are way down.
Oh, no, I've noticed it.
Growing.
Trust me. Yeah.
And we're not helping ourselves or the league by making these type of things the example. We want to work.
When did this happen? I mean, I know when the hurricane happened, but
the first I heard of it, and please forgive me, I received hundreds of emails, but I want to say the first I knew of it was earlier this week, and I think that the issue was after the fact.
Yeah, and it's after the fact.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't want to keep interjecting, but I'm interrupting a family meal to be in this conversation. But
so let me
resolve it. Say, okay, we are not talking, and I'm not grandiose at all. We are not talking about the World Cup. We are not talking about the Women's World Cup. We're literally talking about under 8 girls who are literally playing their very first year of competitive soccer.
This is under 8 girls?
No, well, they're under 9, but they're 8.
Well, that's what I mean. But that's what I mean. It's an under 9
year in a division that has 4 teams, in a division that has Braden River playing, and literally every away game for Braden River is an hour drive.
Right.
So
but again, all I'm saying is that if it's just a protocol thing, and I'm not saying we can't go back and rectify the situation for you. But it's just a protocol.
But Sherry started out this discussion, if I'm incorrect, by talking about how many rescheduling issues there are. I can only speak to what's happening in academy youth soccer. But this should not be occurring. We should be working very much to try to rectify every situation to make sure that every game is played, regardless of what is in GOT soccer or not in GOT soccer. When coaches agree,
absolutely,
we should be working together to make things get done.
Right. I absolutely agree.
We're good. We got it, Mark.
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you in that regard.
What you're telling us, is this guy shouldn't be fined. And if we bring this up, I don't think there's anybody on the board that would.
I don't think there's anybody in the board that's going to say that this is going to be a
however,
fine or a forfeit.
We've got 3,500 games. If this league, though, from what I hear, is the structure of the league is not to your liking either. Now, is there something you would like to do about that, or you could have done about that?
Sorry, Paul. No, the structure is completely fine by me. I have no problem with it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking about, right. So what I'm saying is that I was unaware, if I could just say it. I'm, as the vice president.
We meet every month and go through all these things.
As the vice president.
Doesn't mean we're going to uphold.
Right. If you had emailed me, did you CC me on the email? And did I miss it?
No, I'm sorry, Steve. I did not see you on the email.
Okay.
But if I may have another example, if you don't mind me, I'm sorry, but today is another example where Florida Premier contacted us 2 days ago and said they did not have enough girls to play on Sunday today.
And what age group was that?
This is under 10 Girls Academy.
Okay.
And we were notified via Got Soccer. I'm sorry, Sherry, I believe it came from you.
It did.
That coach, we were going to be fined $250 if we did not show up and play that game.
You were going to be fined because you didn't have enough players, or they didn't have enough players?
No. The way the rules are written, Steve, is if neither team shows, each team gets fined $250.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
correct.
That
is correct. That is correct.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound overbearing, but I literally was on the phone on a Sunday morning telling my managers and my coaches to show up with 10 girls to a game they knew was not going to occur,
right?
So that they wouldn't be hit with a $250 fine.
Right. And again, because I want you to get back to your dinner, to be honest with you, in that regard, is that this incident, as far as what is occurring here, obviously nothing's going to, there's nobody here that's going to propose that we fine or forfeit or anything, and most likely allow that game to be played. As far as the bigger structures involved, I think I agree with you. I'm not going to say I disagree with you. I like the rules we have in place, but we may have to relook at them. We had to, every so often you need to relook at your rules and see if there's some circumstances that, yes, are hindering kids from playing soccer, and that should be our biggest concern, is that kids are getting to play soccer, especially at the youngest age groups. But what's happening now is what I have to do defend Sherry and the league and or whatever, is that unfortunately, and I'm not saying this is your fault for not bringing me into the loop, but if you had brought me into the loop on this circumstance, this specific circumstance, and even as far as the one with the panhandle, I would have said, don't even worry about it. I'll take care of it for you. Okay. Today's incident.
I did not know that, but now I will copy you.
Right. Today's incident, I might have had to say, well, you know what, this is what we should do, or I can get in touch with Sherry and I can say, or I can get in touch with the board quickly and say, hey, this is a circumstance. I agree with you that we do have, and I was the one to bring this situation up, that we do have last minute things that happen that make it so that we cannot make games or something like that. The rule is put into place to avoid people just not showing up, period. You know what I'm saying?
And I agree with that 100%.
Right. So down the road, and like I said, I want you to get back to your family dinner, but down the road, we were more than welcome, and we're more open to looking at some of the rules and trying to find that happy medium, because I even have concerns myself, to say, how can we protect against the last minute thing that comes up, as opposed to saying, okay, this team is deliberately just not showing up because, whatever. So we just have to find a way to do that. And I don't think tonight's the avenue to solve that problem. But I invite you to either talk with me or talk with the board, or join us in these meetings as we approach time to make by rule changes and things like that, to go ahead and see if we can find a way to come to a happy medium. Keep the structure, but allow some leniency towards last minute situations and emergencies that come up like this.
I'd be more than happy, Steve, to do that.
And the bottom line is, we are the executive board. If we need to make a decision based on these circumstances that happen, we can not necessarily not go by the rules, but we can vote to say, hey, this is a special circumstance. We know this to be true, and this is what we're going to do. And, so just keep us in the loop a little bit more. Yes, definitely try, if you can, to go through God Soccer. With Sherry, you got to go through God Soccer. With me as a director, you can email me. You know what I'm saying? But with Sherry and Greg, you got to go through God Soccer, because that's the only way we can document it. It's the only way we can document that you have informed us. Do you know what
I
I'm saying?
appreciate it.
Because Sherry is gonna, and I know because I deal with it as a director in my league. Sherry just has so many she can handle in a day's time or an hour's time, and
Right.
she doesn't get to yours, and you're right on the forefront. Your problem is very important to you, but we don't know that because
I appreciate
maybe
that.
you're
Absolutely.
50th in the line of emails that she gets. So I'm just saying, in the future, bring me, if it's a girls issue, bring me in on it. And I'm at times might just refer it to Sherry, but when it's circumstances, then I will advise you on what to do and go from
I
there.
appreciate
So,
it.
and that's it. And that's all I'm saying is that we have new people that I don't know if you're new, the rule, but there is always a gray area, but we have to know it ahead of time. If we go ahead and get rid of the rule, trust me, we'll have chaos. We will have
I agree.
chaos.
I agree.
We will have
And I
Yeah.
do appreciate your time and the consideration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay, I'm going to go back to dinner. You guys, thank you very much. I've known you, many of you, for decades, so I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, go get back to your family dinner. Thank you for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you, fellas.
Cheers. Okay.
All right, number 2, increase in number of teams rescheduling due to lack of players.
Well,
yeah,
that's where that's where your forfeits come from.
That's where your forfeits come in, and the problem is we go back to that same policy. Why are we having lack of players? Is it because we're putting teams in leagues that we really don't have?
Yeah, Steve, at the meeting again, one of the points that
I remember you saying
stopped and said, and I told them every meeting, I said, if you are not ready, if you don't have enough kids, if you're
I know.
I
remember you
do
saying
yourself a favor. So I mean, it's not like you're not warning them that this is not. Don't go into the season shorthanded and think you're going to somehow miraculously get through.
Oh, I agree. Oh no, I'm not disagreeing. I remember you saying that, but they're still doing it.
Come the end of the year, Steve, also, we should, and Greg and everybody, we should re-look at who's playing on what teams and who can play on what teams, because some of these guys are filling in. The role of our organization is to promote play.
Right, and we'll come up. I'm sure the issue with my club today, and that we don't have to discuss all the ins and outs. But the bottom line is, we do have to look at who we're allowing to, play, and why, and what's the reason.
A lot
for
of
the
these
rule?
rules, Steve, many of them were formed 15 years ago.
Yeah, when it was formed for a different reason.
Yeah, when it was
and we know why.
And people were. It was
formed on egos.
Move in the Premier Division, especially. So if you put a couple kids in who are overage or something,
right? But if you have a kid. Right,
that isn't the case anymore. So
no, it's not. And you have
we've got to look at what the real
correct. What's the purpose? You have to you have the CDL league.
And what the landscape of youth soccer looks like, so that we're making sure that we're these guys that are trying to have teams. I know that we had a Braden River team at the beginning of the year, had 3 girls from their competitive team, an age group down, run over on Sunday and play with these other girls because in D3 and 18 or 19, because there weren't
enough. Right.
So,
and we have
they can't do that, but that's a good case right there. If you've got these bylaws in effect, then you've got to enforce them. However,
but were they?
Take a look at some of these bylaws.
But what were the intentions? And that's what we have to look at.
Yes, and not only that, it's just.
But was the intention so that the team could play and we could get kids playing?
Well, I didn't think they won the game, and I don't think actually Braden River didn't even win the match.
Right, but in the past, the rules were written because of the intentions were to gain an advantage.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think that's the case anymore. I think it's more.
I agree with
us
you.
Just trying to play. So yeah, we can discuss this further.
Spend some time revising.
I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you brought it up, Paul, because that was something I was going to bring up. That I would like to be on a committee, if we're going to do a committee, or at least just join whoever would like to have a discussion on reviewing the bylaws and saying, okay, now that this is 15 years later, how can we change it, to accommodate kids being able to play soccer?
Well, yeah,
that's the bottom line.
That goes to Mark's point about having, if they want to have 3 teams and they're moving an 8-year-old girl around on them, and that's not.
Holy cow.
The fact is, when they show up on the field, if they got enough kids to play
Play the game.
play the game.
Yeah, play the game. Play the game. Exactly.
And
So
if they're in the wrong league, they're fools. Nobody now stays in the wrong. I mean, out of 500 teams, you haven't got 2 that stay in the wrong league.
Right.
Just whoop up on anybody.
Right. And I don't think we have to be in competition with anybody. You know, we're not in competition with CDL. We don't need to be in competition with any other league. We are our league. And you know what? We're going to always have, and we're always going to be one of the bigger leagues because there's so many teams out there that are not premier teams. You know, I know a lot of us want to focus on saying we want the best quality teams out there. Do we, or do we just want to make sure we have as many kids playing soccer as possibly can at a higher level?
I think you got to look at that. And the other thing is, when you get to the premier teams, there really aren't many of them.
There's not many of them.
Really premier.
And you know what? They're not in CDL. They're not in CDL. They're not in USA. They are in the. They're in the FSPLs. They're in the.
That's correct.
And you know what? They're not even in NPL. Even that level is starting to get watered down now because they have.
I agree.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So we're trying to call them all the premier. They're not anymore.
They're not anymore. No, they're not. They're not. But again,
especially in the older age groups. Okay.
Especially.
Right. Reminder to coaches to control parental behavior. Number 3. Whose was that? Greg? Sherry.
I put the agenda together. I didn't have specifics, just things I'm seeing. And again, as you already kind of touched on this earlier, it just seems to be a little bit out of control.
Yes.
And, anytime
now, Sherry, do you think it's more than normal?
I don't. What would you say, Greg? Maybe a little bit. Or maybe we're just finding out about it more.
The number of reschedules?
No, the reschedules.
No, we're on to the parent.
The reschedule's a nightmare. I mean, that's just a nightmare.
Oh, the parents in certain clubs. Okay, seriously, in certain clubs, parents think they're entitled to just walk on the field and accost a referee.
Yeah, they're entitled. Okay. Entitlement.
They feel they're entitled. Plus, they storm the field if there's any kind of mishap on the field, whether it's a rough tackle or they don't agree with the call.
Yeah.
And then when the game is over, it's like a horde going across the field to talk to the referee or to belittle the other players on the other team. And believe me,
that's behavior we just can't put up with, right? Correct?
Absolutely not.
Nobody
this was number 1, Paul.
Yeah, but nobody is condoning that. Here's the other side of that, just so we all remember. We get an email from an outraged parent that said their son was beaten to death. Nearly a guy had a tire iron on the field and was hitting his son with it. Abba. We look at the referee's report and we see nothing.
Who's got the dog?
So
that's sorry, that's my fault.
so we're in a situation if. And that was the essence of the email I wrote to that I wrote this week that you guys got, the 2 of you got anyway. We can't, without our employee, the center ref, the only person at the field who is to be considered to be neutral, without them reporting that specific behavior. All we have is a he said, she said. Now, it's not like we don't take it into account, especially where we've had it 5 weeks in a row from 5 different clubs about the same club. Then we start to say, well, you're right. Something's wrong here. And we did have that this season. But elsewhere, it becomes there are events here, PCU and FC Tampa and Dunedin. And, I mean, it's like one parent's thing one weekend seems to go crazy, and that doesn't make for a pattern of behavior. That's just some nut acting out, or some parent who was overwrought about what's happened because they feel that something horrible has happened to their child. And I don't dismiss that parent or that coach's email to us. However, you can't take an executive committee cannot take any action unless you've got the independent, third-party, neutral person that's there writing it up and specifying what they did. That's part of the issue. You want to control, and we do bring the coaches to task on that. But we have got to have some support from the center refs to at least outline what's going on. I mean, the thing we were just talking about with Joe, this is a guy that obviously I would think, trusting Joe's opinion, that the guy was not didn't do a great job in the center, and he's not going to write himself up for that for doing.
No. And according to him, he's going to call the game the way he wants to call it, whether he's going to call it good or bad.
That's correct.
If he wants to call it bad, he can call it bad because he's got. I think the responsibility in these
but he's all we got. If that hadn't been Joe or someone we knew, you'd be saying, well, what did the guy write up about the game?
Right. Well, but Joe knows now, right? Joe, if there was an issue with your club, regardless of the referees and how bad they ref this game, you don't want your parents behaving in a way that is unruly or out of control. So you deal with it on the club level. You're not going to just.
That's the reason why I attend 15 games.
Exactly.
Well, that's a smart thing. And that all correct. That's
so I think that has to go back to the clubs.
That's the way this works. The clubs. I know, Sherry, you had something to me this week saying, in fact, I think they did have a problem. I'm not laughing. It's not funny. But someone asked us, it was Dunedin in Minnesota. The Minnesota team was coming to Dunedin, and there was it was I think a parent, may have been a club official, but I don't think so, was asking if they should have police at the fields. Well, that's not for us. We don't start telling clubs they got to have cops at the field.
No, you can't.
Because I would think that the club, if they felt that there was going to be something amiss, would have the labor there to prevent whatever was going to happen.
They shouldn't be really coming to USA with those issues. They should be going to their clubs.
If we start taking control of that, if we think we can take control of it, I mean, I just want you to think about that black hole, because that's where you go. You don't start telling clubs how they're going to handle their coaches or their things.
No.
You just want to make them responsible for the behavior. We're not telling them, well, this coach better know something, and he's going to.
You inform them of the incident that was brought to our attention.
And I think
please handle this.
In our defense, if we get repeated teams or clubs,
and that's different.
Problem is week in and week out. We have gone in and done something, but the other things. I mean, I coached and I had dust up. Something just exploded out on the field on me. I couldn't. By the time I got it all reined in, about 5 things had gone wrong that shouldn't have been done. I knew better, but I couldn't. It just blew up. So that, parents running out of the field and I tossed the kids, tossed the parents, but that was after the match. And that happens to everybody, every club, every person. And you can't look at them as, that's not the problem. We have a lot of games. So we have a lot of these things happen. I mean,
but the clubs have to set the tone for their culture.
That's correct. But if the club is repetitive, if the club is constantly coming up,
well, then we have to say we don't want you in our club anymore.
Well, then you start thinking it's the club. But when I get something from another club and says Braden River, I know Braden River doesn't. I know they're good actors. I mean, they're well run, they're well managed. So you're not going to say, geez, we better go down there and tell Braden River what to do or tell FC Tampa what to do, because that's the beginning of the season. Whereas last year,
I had a situation that's on the rec side of things, and that's sad that it's on the rec side of things. But, whereas, like I told you at the beginning before the meeting, this coach last week I had to deal with. Well, Keith, who's in charge of the Tarsa League, emails me because Hernando went and complained about our coach. Blah, blah, blah. I said, Keith, it's handled. Don't worry about it. It's handled. You don't have to take care of it. I reprimanded the coach.
It's the same thing. That's what Joe's talking about. You go to 15 matches, who in your club, you can remind them, hey, you
Right.
know.
I remind them, and then I say, if you can't fix it, then we'll find someone else to coach the team. Thank you very much. You know, but please don't, you know, I said, but then tell Hernando to do the same thing. And then that's it. You know, Tarsa didn't need to be involved in that because it was more of a club issue than it was a
All right.
Tarsa
But Sherry,
issue.
so is that, I mean, we got to keep pushing these things at the board, but it does seem like there's more this year, but you know, maybe the end of the year we can actually, I know it's, you know, not a lot of fun toting this stuff up. But,
well, can we agree to have a letter go out to the clubs?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
make sure the clubs know that the coach is responsible for the parental behavior on the field.
Yes, but Greg, in reality, we can do, and we should do that. But is there a club anywhere in our organization, you know, that's in our league that doesn't know that?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
You're probably right, Greg. I'm sure there is, or there may be a few people in that organization.
After if we don't say this every single time we're either at these meetings and at the coaches' meetings,
but they don't listen and they're not there.
But Greg, that's, in other words, another email isn't going to do it. I would send one and remind people this year's been seems to be a little woolly. Maybe the moon is, maybe we got some sunspots or, you know, new moons or something where people's behavior seems to be more aggressive towards refs and other teams, and remind them that, you know.
Well, I think it's a good idea to send an email because
I think it's not a bad idea.
We'll take that email and forward it to their coaching staff. And I think it's a good idea just to say, just a reminder, we've seen, you know, an unwelcome increase in incidents involving parents. Please remind your coaches in USA League matches they're responsible for the behavior.
Hey, Greg, when that goes out, who are we sending it to? Like David, would you get that at Braden River if we sent it out? Would David get it?
If we send it to that soccer, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go to the USA rep. That's where those emails will get.
As long as his information is in Got Soccer.
She can check. We can check off the president, vice president, registrar, all those people. Plus, you
that
can
are listed in Got Soccer.
Check off all the coaches too, and all the coaches will get it.
We can pick it up and good.
Guys, I would add to that, if you agree, I would add a line in there that it's a recommended best practice that your parents sit on the sideline across from your bench.
Oh, I thought that was just already known.
There's a certain field down in Manatee where the parents and the players are sitting next to the bench.
Yes, but that's not
more on the parent sideline, and they
on the sideline. Right?
What's that, Paul?
The center referee in those cases, Greg, needs to stop the match and move the parents. Well, instead of us telling the parents you can't do that, the referee has got to do the enforcing. That's a rule that everybody knows. Everybody does that one. Well, why is the center not?
Because the parent has no respect for
right.
authority.
But you stop the match. In other words, for me, I stopped the match. I said when those parents go back to the sidelines, the match will restart.
Yeah. But then,
I spend all day every Saturday at Oldsmar moving parents, visiting parents to their side of the field because they show up and they want to dominate the center line and they take both sides of it, and then they want to, sit in the middle of a bunch of Oldsmar parents and say nasty things about Oldsmar players and things like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You mean on the side of their team?
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
The bench.
Greg's talking about they're on the coach's side of the.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought you said.
They're on the coach's side. They're behind the bench.
And they are.
Yeah, that's what I thought you meant.
That's the one. That's what we've seen reported.
Yeah. The coach's sideline, the ref needs to take care of that because
that's why.
And they will
check. They shouldn't be over there.
Yeah.
But real quick, who's here from Plant City? You haven't announced yourself.
Can you hear me?
Who is it from Plant City?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is David with Plant City.
Oh, great. Okay. I didn't see you on it, David. All right. I think we beat that to death, but Greg or Sherry both are going to, and just let's take a look at it before it goes out. So we vetted a little bit, but I don't think it's a bad idea to remind it. It seems like it seems, a little more out of control, but.
Well, it's effective or not, at least we've acknowledged
No,
it.
no, it's only an email. And
whether we know it, right.
We just don't, this isn't something to punch somebody in the face with. It's a reminder that civilized behavior is expected.
Yeah.
At all times.
Human behavior.
Yeah. No write-ins. Number 4, no write-ins allowed. Where, Greg, is that?
It's becoming more and more prevalent.
Okay. That is never, we stopped those 3 years ago. Am I correct?
They're still coming in, and these are coaches that are coming over from the other leagues and now coaching in USA that don't know the rules.
You want to add that into the email?
I'm sorry?
You want to add that into the email?
I think we can.
I mean, that's why while we're sending an email out, just remind them of a few of the things that we're seeing that are kind of hanging out, the reschedules, maybe we make a general thing about it, just remind them again, it's got to be through God Soccer, reschedule.
I'd just say remind them of the specific rules that we have in USA.
Put a couple of paragraphs together where we cover all 3 of these issues, the behavior, the write-ins, and the rescheduling, right? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't want you writing a thesis, but it's a one pager. We might as well get it all in.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I think we should.
Just be, just since we're a couple games into the junior season, we might as well help those guys and remind them. Referee assigner meeting last week. Greg, you want to talk about that?
I could go over some of the points. The biggest point was the fact that they have parents accosting them, verbally abusing them, up and down the sideline, and then coming across the field, charging at them after the game's over. Okay. Now, this isn't everybody, obviously, but this does happen more often than not with a certain few clubs that we have.
On a regular, not a regular basis.
It's on a regular basis.
Well, then these clubs need to be dealt with.
And if I could say something, not to go off topic, but it's the same clubs over and over that don't follow the rescheduling rules also.
Okay, so we can deal with these clubs if there's a pattern in this regard.
Well, yeah, I mean, one other issue that comes up is the fact that, and we all know this, okay, we are thin when it comes to centers. Okay?
Yeah.
We've lost over 150 of them this past year, overall in our region.
Because of this.
Okay. Also, the ARs, hey, this is pretty cool. I'll sign up for this. Well, once they sign up for it and they take the test online, they don't have to go anywhere, do anything. And then the club assigner says, well, okay, let's get you going. No, I was just kidding. I just wanted to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
So these guys are signing up and nobody wants to take it.
But they don't really want to do it. They just wanted to see if they could.
I guess. I don't know. I guess they want to say that they're a referee. Who knows? Probably because the scholarships that we give out ask them if they're referees, and now they can say they're a referee.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a clue. I don't know what that is. It's just pure conjecture. But the one thing that they were very concerned about in line with that is that the reschedules are too many, and they're too close to the day. Nobody is rescheduling games 20 days out. No. They're rescheduling games 2 hours out or 20 hours out.
Yeah, and then giving you an attitude when you say no.
And you get the attitude. And no offense if Mark's still on here, but you get the offense that Mark brings in. But because of the number of reschedules that there are and the number of referees that have to go here and go there, we can't possibly treat 600 teams, differently. There has to be one rule for everything.
No, we agree. I agree with that.
Okay.
And I think this goes. But see, I think this goes back to us looking at our rules and saying, how can we come to a happy medium between why these people are doing this at the last minute and still not necessarily losing the integrity of what the rule is in there for. Okay, I mean, the rule is in there for so that teams don't just not show up and that we have games played, and that's a perfectly legitimate reason.
There's a time thing. I think what Sherry's pointing out is we don't make a change inside of 21 days. Now, that's because we were told, or we are under the impression that that's the planning horizon for the referees.
For the referees,
to be set. Now, that being said, if we lowered that to 14, I don't think the refs are going to die. Would that help?
Well, here's the thing. Guess what? If you're going to reschedule a game within, let's say, even 7 days, with even 1 day, understand that those referees still have to be paid. So if the referee is getting paid, what does the referee care if they're refereeing a game?
Well, I do have some questions about that also, but I mean, we'll get to that in the next in the executive committee.
We need to put in a fee, guys. The reason
there you go, a fee.
The reason there's so many game changes is because there is no deterrent to changing games.
I agree.
There's no deterrent whatsoever. If you put in a $50 fee to change a game,
I think there'll be a determinant.
Would go down tremendously.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that idea.
$100 fee.
Yeah, if it's within the 21 days.
Yeah.
Within the 21 days.
Or maybe make it for, like I said, we should look at 14, 21.
Plus you have to pay the
And
referees.
we can do it, guys, we can do it with a big smile on our face and say, we're more than happy to let you change any game you want with less than 21 days notice. It will only cost you a $250 rescheduling fee.
There you go.
That's
because you're paying because you have to pay the referees. You have to pay the referees, and then you have to pay this fee.
No, we don't have to pay the referees 20 days out, Steve.
No, I'm saying within the 20 days.
No,
within
48 hours. 48 hours for referees to get.
See, referees don't have to be paid. I mean, in other words, we don't recompense them because they took a game. That's the complaint. I thought
the problem was that they took the game, and then all of a sudden it's
canceled. That's what they're complaining about.
That's what I mean.
They take these games, they got them lined up, and then all of a sudden change the games. They don't get paid because they had scheduled themselves out. They couldn't do anything. Now their opportunity costs are very great. All the games are scheduled. They then can't go get another game.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Is that if you have to reschedule it, you get paid.
They don't get paid, but they don't get paid. They only get paid 40 hours.
That's it, and that needs to change.
Well, that needs to change.
I say we institute a fee.
Remember, when we're talking about this, you also have to. This is like an unfunded, it's like FYSA's famous thing. I give you 100 things to do, and they don't give you any money to do it. And we'll get to that in the next.
Well, this is something that has to be discussed over time and
but
find.
Somebody in our organization has to follow this, collect it, and get the money to the refs. So don't.
Yeah.
Every time you think about putting another rule in where you got money in this, that somebody in our organization. That's why I discussed with Greg. I think this week and last week. While you're doing it, just make sure you realize who's going to do it, how they're going to do it.
Okay, so out of those funds and those fees, why don't we pay somebody to do it?
We're gonna collect fees, right?
And then we pay.
You can't make it.
Fees, but they come to us to register for next year. They can't register until they pay their fees.
Well, number one, they can't pay their fees.
We're not worried about paying them. We're talking about now. If now we institute a whole series, because if you ever reschedule, let's say there were 500 of them, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you put a fee in there, you're going to cut them in half because everybody's not going to. They're still going to pay the $50 because they don't know enough not to do it. It may take 3 years to.
Well, it took a couple of years for them
so
to understand the fine.
You're going to have
but you know
200 fines going out that you got to collect and you got to appropriate to the refs if we're going to start paying them. And that's all I'm saying is
this.
It's easy.
Yeah, but you know, it shouldn't stop.
Well, we
that
need to do
shouldn't
this
stop
and we
us.
need to do that. We need a system before we think about it. We need a system in place.
That's what I'm saying. And we have to find out a way to do it. This is we're just thinking off the top of our head.
That's right.
But I've always said this, and I agree with this, that Joe, that money is what really hits them the hardest.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm sorry.
I think once it
No,
happens
I agree.
one time, they won't do it a second.
Yeah.
No, but there are
Exactly.
500 of them, Joe. That's our problem.
You know what?
Sherry and I
hire.
discussed this last year, and we thought, well, 25, 50. And we need to get it in bylaws this year. Then I agree. I think it's got to be some.
We just have to find the right way to do it. Yeah,
there's got to be an irritant to doing it because
remember last year I had the meeting with the assigners, I had the meeting with the referees, and we got them to agree. That's why we put it in the bylaws about the 48 hours. If it's scheduled, within 48 hours, then they're entitled to payment. But if the game's rescheduled or whatever outside of 48 hours, then they're not entitled to anything.
Right. And
see, I didn't know
that's a problem.
And that took a lot, Steve. That took a lot to get that by the assigners and referees.
I agree.
But whether we're going
to pay the refs or not is a separate issue, guys. I'm just talking about putting some sort of a deterrent in place so they actually think twice before they just reschedule games willy-nilly. Because right now, there's nothing that stops them from just rescheduling willy-nilly. They might reschedule the same game 5 or 6 times because there's nothing that stops them from doing it. And it's a giant burden on us as the organizing body.
Right.
And there is a question associated with it.
This is going to come at the end of the season, Joe, so we'll discuss it then. But some things to keep in mind. You've got to be able to determine who you're fining and why.
It's not a fine, it's a fee.
Well, fee.
Greg,
So the fee should be instilled that you can't reschedule it.
No, but I'm saying two guys agree we're going to reschedule, so they both pay 50 or they pay 25 each.
It depends on who has to reschedule.
Well, that's my point. So somebody's going to have every one of these. You're going to have to allocate who's asking for the.
Well, here's the thing: if it's both, then they can agree to pay both. Yeah. If it's not, if it's one, then the other coach has the right to refuse.
So when we put this bylaw in, we should have it well thought out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I'm just saying, I like the idea.
There's more to this than you think, and we probably should be well schooled before we do it.
And we have to have a system in place.
Who they're going to send it to? Yes.
Did we not hear a presentation about ECNL where they charged $1,200?
Yeah.
For a reschedule?
Well, I think it was an FPL 1,000 or 500.
Something like that.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. $1,000 to reschedule.
They
don't think it's all that much. Why the hell should we even bother with $50? Go with $300.
No, I don't think $50. I think at least $100, $150, if not more. But I
keep it at 50.
Yeah, 50 is nothing for a club.
The club's not doing it though, Steve. The club has no idea that their guys are rescheduling these matches.
Yeah, but the clubs are going to be responsible for it though.
Yes.
In the long run.
All of a sudden, they're going to have a $3,000 bill from us because 10 guys rescheduled that they didn't even know. You start thinking about the ramifications of that. The 50, you say, hey man, $200 for 4 reschedules. Who was that? That'll get their attention, I think. But wherever we set.
Well, we can think out the details, but I like the idea of Joe. Okay. I think that's a good idea.
But don't gloss over. We need to think out.
Well, I think we should have.
The devil in all these things is in the details because when you start to go into it.
I think right now. Yeah, but I think right now we realize as an organization through what's going on with all these things that are happening that we as an organization, either through committee or just through our own board, need to have a few maybe extra meetings to just discuss some of our law revisions and take this topic and have a meeting to discuss what's going to be the best way to do it. Outside of these meetings, like have like a committee meeting or something. We can meet somewhere. We can meet at a neutral place for a restaurant or something and make it more of a informal thing, or make a committee on it or something. Maybe invite clubs, a representative if you want to be on it.
We can draft up something too, Steve.
Correct. And then
we need to do that at the turn of in January.
But come January, we need to start putting these incidences into place and having either meetings or discussions, even if it's a discussion online, just about this specific topic, so we're not.
Well, yeah,
dealing with the
I think
inside
the
of
other
it
thing
yet.
is, Steve, we've got to vet it, not just at the meeting where we're voting. We've got to vet it to all our clubs to say, here's what we're thinking about doing.
Give
So
us some
we send it
input.
out to PCU.
Correct. Right.
The
So
guys
we'll
that
start
have
thinking about that. Yeah.
20, 10, 15, 20
But we're
Say,
coming
what
up
do
to
you
the
think?
realization that our rules, we need to now tweak our rules again.
Well, yeah, the rescheduling was out of hand last year.
Yeah.
It was out of, and we mentioned it specifically in these meetings this year. In every one of the coaches' meetings, it was a specific topic that and I said in the meeting, if they continue, we're going to have to do something.
And so we'll do something.
We're hoping that by mentioning it, it'll help.
Right. You warned them, so now we have a.
Yeah. I told you we were going to do this.
All right. Three more things the assigners had. Number one, they're having a problem trying to schedule 2 games at the same time at the same club, at the same park. Because they don't have enough, if you've got to put, that's 6 referees you got to pull from some other club now that wants a 9 o'clock game, for a 10-year-old game. They want it at 9 o'clock. So Wesley Chapel and Rangers can't each take 2 games each at the same time, and there's no referees available. So, that's something that we have to take a look at from a scheduling perspective. Number 2, they really have a problem with the triplicate forms, Paul.
Yeah, you said that. And I don't.
They don't understand why they got to fill out forms in triplicate.
All right. Well, tell me why we fill them out in triplicate. Why do we have that form?
So that each coach has a copy.
Each coach has a copy of it. That's
all right. And the ref has a copy.
Right. Correct. Plus, keep in mind, it's gotten greater this year. We're at 25% now. The number of referees that are not turning in game cards to Got Soccer.
So the only thing we can do is
when you say the game card, you're referring to the electronic
upload of the game information. We're close. It's probably about 21% of the game cards we are missing. They're just not turning them in for whatever reason.
What if we put the onus, and again, it's something we may have to continue to discuss later, but when we put the onus back onto the coaches as well as the referees to report their score, because nowadays all they got to do is take a picture of the game card and send it in.
Well, they don't put the addendum and ancillary information on that triplicate form. If I need extra information because there was a fight, because there was red cards.
Well, that's what I'm saying. No. We don't even have to worry about. We don't have to be. What do we need those triplicate forms for at this point?
Oh, because 25% of the referees aren't turning the other ones in. We have no idea.
So what I'm saying is, if we just eliminate the triplicates and just say to the coaches now in the clubs, you will be responsible for taking a picture of the game card. Okay. The referee. How about the referee turns it into the home coach, and it's the home team's coach responsibility.
We'll do is, for every discrepancy we get, we're going to email you.
The issue with that is that right now the 75% that are doing it are entering the scores. If you take that away, now you've got Greg and I inputting 3,000 game scores, and there's just you would need more staff, truly. Because I'm already doing the 25%.
Can't you do it in a sense I don't know. Can't it be done like they do in tournaments, like where they just take a picture? Doesn't Got Soccer now have it somewhere you can scan the code and then the game comes up and the home team coach types in the score and then sends a picture of it to you?
Supposedly Got Soccer's got a call-in number that you can call in all this stuff, but I don't know what the format is of the information.
I have to look into that.
I would look into it because, and I know I don't like these 3 letters don't like to be taking place, but CDL does something like that where you actually scan the barcode of the game card, the game pops up, and you type it in there. Or something like that.
How do you know
Steve?
Or it's done in a tournament or something like that.
The CDL supports about 10% of the amount of games that we do.
Well, no, I get that. But the issue, but what I'm saying is there's a way on the game card that has I would look into there's a way, and maybe it's not CDL, maybe it's the tournaments that I'm thinking about. But
yeah, it's not CDL. They're not even in GOT Soccer.
Right. Now that you say that, you're right. They're not in GOT Soccer.
Does have a
so this was a tournament, right, where you scan the code, the game pops up, and the tournament director puts in the score, and then it's posted. Right. So why can't we adopt something like that?
GOT Soccer has a scan code that you can add to your game reports.
Correct.
Because we use it for our rec leagues for updating games and scores.
Yeah.
Who is that? Who's talking?
It's Gary Rock.
Gary,
what club are you from, Gary?
West Florida Flames.
Well, Gary, is it a pre-printed?
Yep.
Yes.
So when the game card is printed, the scan code is printed on the game card.
And it's barcoded. How does it know the barcode of the game? It gives it the game number. The barcode does.
I don't know how the scan codes work.
How the technology works. But
I don't know how the technology works. All I know is that we got it all.
It's really cool.
So you scan.
Scanner opens up the box in GOT Soccer. You can put the score in.
Yep.
Save it, and it's done.
And then you take a picture of it, and that picture is then sent to Greg or Sherry to confirm that that's correct.
Let me ask you something. If I lose the game and I get the barcode and I change the score from 5 to 3 to 3 to 5.
Well, you're going to have the other coach.
Could I do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Whoever hosts the GOT Soccer account has ultimate authority to change and update score.
Who is that in this case?
In our case, there's several of us. It would be myself, Melissa Howard, Joanne Quinn.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. But, I mean, we can find – again, it's something that has to be refined, and we have to look into it. But
you just got to be sure who's ever entering it is some veracity. They actually –
well, it would have to be a director, or it'd have to be a president or somebody. I wouldn't even leave it up to the coaches. But again, a picture of it still has to be taken, and it has to be sent to us as a league, so that if they accidentally enter, and it could be even by accident, if they accidentally enter the score, you still have a picture of it to say, no, wait, that was entered wrong.
Yeah, but if we had someone at every field, even if everybody didn't do it, if you had somebody at every field, either the ref assigner, whoever that was,
the ref could do it.
That was in charge of that. That would cut down. That could cut down another 15% on us missing.
The ref could do it right there.
Care of entering the score.
Right, the ref could do it, but even the ref could do it right there. They have a bar scan. They go bloop. They enter the score right there.
They're already theoretically they're already entering something.
Right, but it's a lot easier.
So when they don't enter it, that's when we are having problems. But if there was someone at the fields with a What did they get back though? Where's the guy from? I'm addressing the guy from West Florida. What happens? Is there a hard copy of that goes to somebody?
Yeah, we keep the hard copies in house. We put them in a file.
Do you have a triplicate form that you're using?
No, it's one form. It's one game card. One game card. That's it.
Yep. Yeah.
We have a site director on site that collects the game card after the game. They scan code it, put in the score, and put it in the file.
This is correct.
If there's a discrepancy, we use the same thing for the tournament. So if there's a discrepancy because somebody put the wrong score in, or
it happens sometimes, whatever, you put it backwards,
right. You simply go, they have to simply notify one of the higher officials in the club to make the change, make the adjustment.
Right. But you have the hard copy on file.
That's all for
we don't. So it would be the same thing. You could have refs, coaches, whoever. If it's a scan code, it's easy. You pop
right off your phone.
Done in less than 2 minutes.
Yep. Yeah, we got to get a little bit more.
We got to use the technology.
We got to use the technology. Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
That's a breakthrough. So, okay, so Greg, you see I
understand where you're going with it. I have a hard enough time getting 25% to 30% of the referees to show up to a meeting. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the refs now. The refs.
I'm talking the refs.
The ref would hand this after the game. Would hand
to the home
there's somebody at those fields that is going to be responsible for every game played in those fields by USA.
Yeah. Now, and you know what?
only 90% of our clubs engage in this. We're still ahead of the game.
You're still ahead of the game.
So how do we get the supplemental report into Got Soccer?
Well, that's got nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about the game score.
The score doesn't, that's fine. The score's fine. The problems we're having is that we don't find out that there's a fight or an ejection until 2 weeks later sometimes.
Isn't that on the Gary? Is that on the form that you have?
Yeah, it would still have to be turned in, a supplemental with the game card.
Okay, so the form that you're talking about, that whoever's going to scan it will not get the supplemental, will not get it scanned in.
No, they won't get a supplemental.
Well, yeah. See, for us, it's a little bit different because it's all in house. So we're getting the hard copy on site. We're not having to have it sent to somebody.
But I'm sure there's a way.
But ultimately, if you're scan coding the score in, you at the same time you can have somebody take a picture of it and send it to
anything.
Who's getting the game reports now?
If they're in Got Soccer.
They're in Got Soccer. Yeah, they're right there.
No, they're emailed to USA Game Reports.
Okay, well, so it would be the same thing. They would just email a copy of the game report to the.
But it doesn't contain the red cards, the yellow cards, and the.
Okay, is there a way on?
If you're sending the game card and the supplemental in, that's being sent in the same exact way it is now.
But that's what the problem is, right?
That's what the problem is.
But the problem is you can't get the supplementals. You can't get a referee writes a red card and they won't submit a supplemental. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Well, then we'll come up with another system that they can scan it. You can do a PDF scan off your phone, and it could be automatically sent to almost anywhere you want it sent. You can send it to Sherry's inbox. You can send it to your inbox. So
we want it in Got Soccer. It has to be in Got Soccer in a database form because the state is wanting all this stuff in detail.
So how do you enter it into Got Soccer?
We don't.
No, the referees enter it into an online game report, Steve.
Meeting.
Hi, where are you?
Meeting.
Okay.
Guys, I think that this conversation is going in the direction of taking that responsibility away from the refs and bringing that responsibility to
right
the clubs and to the league.
Right.
We are paying those referees to do a job. They just need to do their job. This whole discussion is not fixing the original problem. They're not finishing their job.
I agree. You're absolutely 100% right. And if you give me your email address, I will invite you to the next assigner and referee meeting we have. And what they will tell you is if we do any more, we're going to quit.
Yeah, and you're right. I agree with you. We're paying these referees. We're paying these referees to do these things, but you know what?
But
you can only push so far.
But turning in red cards and
bless you.
Soccer meeting.
That is the responsibility of the ref.
Yeah, but you know what? It's not. You know what? It just these refs. Like, I get it.
But it is. I mean, that is their actual responsibility.
Yeah, no argument. No,
I'm not arguing with you about it.
Oh no. I'm agreeing with.
I also, it's the responsibility of
seriously thought the percentage of missing reports would go down that way.
But okay. So what happens if they don't do it? They don't get paid.
They get paid on the field.
But what happens if we? But what happens if What happens?
We don't assign them. We don't assign them to any games.
Okay, so then you don't assign them any games, and then we run into we can't get enough referees to cover all the games. So guess what? You know what? When you can't beat the system, you got to find a way around it. The bottom line is we have to get game reports into Got Soccer. You can't be beating down the door trying to find. So you know what? Then we lower our referee prices and say, look,
Emerson, I think again the problem that the game reports themselves are turned in. If they are not, then we as clubs can do that. It has happened many times where, and that we're doing. However, the supplemental report, that's the part that
that has to be turned in by the referee.
That's what this whole conversation is about.
But what I'm saying is a referee we can find a way for a referee, there's the technology there for them to just, write up the game report, take their phone, take a picture, and it's uploaded somehow. I mean, I would.
As long as it's still their responsibility, that's great. But bringing that responsibility over to the clubs.
No, you can't. You can't do that because they don't always write they don't always write the report and hand it in, don't they? Go home and write it up sometimes or whatever.
Sometimes you'll have somebody that simply delays in turning it in, or something else happened. I've got a remote field, for example. I'm not always at that field that I can get that and turned in a timely basis, and we have a game the next day.
Right.
I think that responsibility is with
But they have to go in, right? But they have to go in and literally type it into God Soccer.
I agree with you that we can try to find technology to make it easier.
That's all I'm saying. We should try to find some technology to make it easier for them, and that it goes quicker. So, like, if you do have a game the next day, it is already in there. So maybe we just research that technology. That's all I'm saying. I wasn't saying take that part away from the referees because we can't.
Well,
we can't. We never get those.
Clubs
don't get those.
I've tried for 2 years to put in a simple edit. I'm an ex-programmer. I could have done it in less than 5 minutes. And Got Soccer will not hear it. They will not do it. So that's enough. That's enough of that. The only other thing that the older assigners had, guys, and that's the Jims and the Daves and those, is that it's apparent that there's a lot of the bigger clubs have like one coach coaching 3 or 4 teams. Okay, so like they coach a game. And as soon as the final whistle, or even before that, boom, they're off to the next game somewhere. Okay?
Right.
And if there's anything administrative, paperwork or whatever, and they don't even bother, they're not even involved in any of the rescheduling, forfeits, or any of that stuff because they just coach the team. These are professional coaches. We know, you know who they are. Everybody's got them. Okay? What they're suggesting is it doesn't make a difference to these guys what you do to them because they're still doing their training. They'll just find somebody else to babysit the kids on game day. What they suggest is you hit the club with the fine. You send the fine to the club about the team. You know, i.e., this is your under 10 boys team that is being fined, and you send that to the treasurer, to the president, and the vice president instead of the coach because he doesn't care.
Well, we're not finding coaches anyway.
Teams. The coach of the team is ultimately responsible for.
Yeah, but not the club pays the fees.
So when you have,
but what I'm saying is they don't. It never gets to the club half the time.
So send it to the clubs.
Okay, well that's what I'm saying.
Well, all of our checks come from clubs, though, do they not? All these fines that we're collecting.
No, because they're done by credit cards, right?
They do them by credit card, or they do it per team. The teams will go into PayPal. The teams will go into PayPal and put the manager will put his own credit card in there.
Yeah, I agree with you,
It's the club that's ultimately responsible for the payment.
Yes,
yes.
We don't have to worry about that.
I would just inform the clubs then. Inform a president or a director of coaching or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all they.
Yeah. I mean, we should anytime they get a fine, we should always let the club know.
In addition to the coach,
Yeah, because you're going to surprise them at the end of the year to say your coach.
Now, if the club wants to go ahead and say, Danny, you get into God Soccer and pay this fee, then that's up to them, or they can. A lot of these coaches are being paid, so so it automatically comes out of their team accounts anyway, or it can come out of. Yeah, I would send it to the club president or the record of agent and the treasurer. If you can do that, yeah. And trust me, that will be taken care of.
Yeah. Because the club, ultimately, it's the club that's not going to be able to register for the next year, and they're going to wonder why can't we register? So
and a treasurer will pay the fine and they'll deduct it from the team account.
Yeah,
that's what they'll do.
Well, if they're not paid, I'm not talking about if they're not paid, they're going to wonder. Where did all these fines come, and why didn't you tell us?
Right.
Know this money.
Yep.
Well,
all right.
No problem.
I assumed.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry because I assumed that every time we were fining somebody, it went to the club.
Goes to the team right now.
No. Well, I usually do send it to the club.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just.
That's
all
what
right.
I thought. That's what I thought.
We'll cap it as make sure that the club is informed and the team's informed. Who in the club you want to inform, that's up to you guys. But if I recommend the club of, the record of agent or the whoever, director or president, the team, and maybe the treasurer.
Clubs, Steve, some of the clubs we should know. We should know the people that run the clubs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's either the club directors.
Where those big clubs all have administrators.
They'll have operation directors or director of coaching. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Move on, McDuff.
All right. College showcase being planned. 84 applications received. How are you vetting the applications?
Years in. Well, I got to go into God Soccer. I got to check all the passes. Number one, but other than that, that's. I hope none of them drop because we'll have uneven sides and everything. But last year, basically, we just we had over 160 some applications last year, and we vetted them by years in USA and any service they may have provided, plus recommendation from their coach. So,
how many teams? How many players will be?
We
will be at this thing. Let's say
72. We had 72 last year.
How does that break down? 4 teams?
Well, we play one. This year we're knocking down the number of small-sided games we're going to have because it was just way too long. So we're going to have a small-sided game in the morning. Have them take a half-hour break, and then
well, how are you going to get 72 kids in a small-sided game?
You got 18 and 18 for the girls, 18 and 18 for the boys.
Okay.
Okay. Two sides of 18 for the girls, 2 sides of 18 for the boys.
Okay, gotcha.
Got it? Yeah. It works out. The numbers work out.
Not one game.
I got you.
That's one game.
172. I got you.
Well, they'll get a training session with the coach who's ever coaching them, and then they'll get a small-sided game for 2 times 25 or 2 times 30, and then they'll play a full match after a half-hour rest. And that's why you get 18 players, So we should be okay.
Yeah, I think that's still enough participants, and maybe they realizing that this is the way we vetted it now, they didn't apply, so that's why we're down a little bit. So hopefully these 70-something or whatever you have, or 84, I'm sorry, 84,
right.
Will meet all the qualifications. We won't have to vet it down too much. Yeah,
10% of them were from outside leagues last year.
Were they?
I had players from Orlando wanting to sign up.
Well, like I said, hopefully these are kids now that realize what the process is, or now that we've done it a year, or you've done it a year, they understand these are the qualifications, so they're not, hopefully they're all fall into place, with our requirements.
Right on.
When will you cement that? At what date will the kids know they're in? And
first of December, first or second week of December.
Because if you admit 72, you're not going to get 72. You get 60.
I know. That's what happened last year.
How'd you do that last year?
That's what happened last year. We lost 10%. We had to the numbers down.
You know that.
Yeah, we lost 10% last year. We had a
that's just a given.
Yeah. No, that's understood.
All right.
Had 4 players get injured between now and then too.
No. Car accidents, people moving.
Yeah.
Grandparents dying. There's all kinds of stuff that happen.
You got hit by
kids. Or how about they just got hurt in a soccer game?
One got hit in the head with a Nerf ball.
Yeah. Pipe bombs.
Pipe bombs. Holy crap.
It's just an endless. I'm saying it's an endless amount of stuff out there. So you're going to get some missing. All right.
Hit in the head by a Nerf ball.
All right. Hey, somebody adjourn the meeting. Somebody please make a motion.
Good God. Let's adjourn the meeting. I make a motion. Can I open it and I can close it?
Yeah. I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let's get to the executive committee meeting right away. Approval of minutes?
Okay, hold on. This is someplace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that.
There's the agenda.
No, I had them both up here. I kept them both up for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind. Just minimize that screen. Just click your.
Where's it over here? There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. This is the executive board stuff right here.
Okay.
From last month.
Yep. Anybody that wasn't here, take a look. The big thing, of course, is the Minnesota thing.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, looks good to me. I wouldn't know because I wasn't there, but
Well, that's why we got.
I'm just looking to see what happened. That's all.
That's why we got the minutes.
That's why they're there.
We're all volunteers, Steve.
Yeah, I know. With many things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
All right. No, it looks
Okay,
good unless there's a mistake. So I'll make a motion to accept the meeting.
Okay.
Or accept the minutes.
And we go to the executive meeting here.
All in favor of approval of minutes, say aye.
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 Thank you, Joe.
You say aye or Kai?
No, Kai's still
close enough.
There. Kai has emailed us.
Yeah.
All right, let's move here. Protest. I see protest and appeals, none. Hearings, none. Old business, none. Although there is a little bit, but we'll get that in the new business.
Yep.
TBU complaint concerning regarding fines. I think Mark covered that, did he not?
He did, but what's the final decision on?
Well, let me ask you something. Is the way he reported it 100% accurate?
Well, I mean, I believe he's being truthful about the panhandle and all that, but the issue was just that we didn't know any of those things.
Okay.
The only way I found about any of it was from the opposing team. Let me know that she needed to reschedule this, reschedule that, and I said, well, I didn't even know it wasn't played.
Right. Okay. So we know now, and I hopefully I advised him to make sure that they, keep us in the loop a little bit more.
Mark still doesn't understand how to reschedule a game in GOT soccer, though.
Yeah, well, that's
not only that. The couple things we didn't make a point because I don't want to belabor it. One, I don't care what age the kids are at. Mark keeps going, well, it's under 9s. You can't.
Yeah.
They have the right to have a regulated league if they're 8 or 18. We present that to them when they come into the league that will be regulated, that the other team will come, and that they will show up also. The rules are the same for 8-year-olds as much as they are for 18. Now, if the way we constituted the league was difficult for someone to geographically make, or saying we can't drive these kids an hour, the time to do that was right at the coaches meeting or shortly thereafter, and drop your team out. And that's where I don't think these guys, in other words, are making these points, but the points are absurd for us, because if you got your team in, then it is going to be treated like every other team. And, there's no difference if they're 8 years old. He kept saying 8. I don't care if they're 8. They have a right. They've paid money to be in the league, and probably per kid they're paying as much as anybody else on a prorated basis. They have a right to have a well-regulated league. They because they're 8 does not mean that they should be willy-nilly and they play whenever somebody makes up their mind that they can do that. Number 2, I understand someone being pulled immediately overnight to the panhandle. What I don't understand is that person had no idea, of course, they were going to be pulled to the panhandle. Maybe that's
sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, we're not going to
argue
that's
that. Okay. So I got it. He's pulled away so quickly he can't get any information back to anybody. Okay.
No, and that's what I was saying.
Okay, I'm good. Yeah. I'm good for that.
What club is this?
TBU. If that's the truth, I'm fine.
This is TBU, and they didn't have somebody else that could coach this team.
That's the problem. I don't think.
Freaking break.
Yeah.
I think you have a representative on the line from TBU. Trish on the line.
No, Trish was here. I don't know if she's still here.
I thought she was. She texted me that.
Here's the other part of that, Joe. The possibility.
Trish is still on, or at least her name appears.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you, Trish.
Okay. Okay, I'm here.
So Trish, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Listen, but Mark was on, and he explained that the first one, the coach was on Friday night at sometimes. The coach was pulled.
At the last minute, he got
at the
pulled
last
to the
minute. He had to go. He had to go right to the panhandle and couldn't get in touch with anybody.
Right.
To help, to at least tell people what's going on. Okay. One of Joe's asking, they don't have an assistant or anybody else that could have stepped in, I guess.
Yeah. Not in the academy, Paul, because, we have the multiple.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we don't. We didn't.
Okay.
And and he's in the reserves, I guess. Is that what they're the ones?
Yeah. No, we're not disputing what he did, and I told him.
I would say my guess is, will someone make a motion? I make a motion, say I'd rescind that fine.
Oh, absolutely. I
this
make a
is
motion.
Force majeure or whatever you call it. Yes.
Yeah, Paul, I'll make that motion as the vice president of girls that we make a motion to rescind any penalties due to the circumstances in that regard of, and that we allow that game to be rescheduled if needed. But in retrospect of that, that's an official motion. But in retrospect of that, the only thing I can say, Trish, is, and I don't know if you were online when I told him, is that, just make sure that it's done in a way that whether it's because our official rules are through God Soccer, as I'm sure you're aware of, number one. And number two, in an emergency situation, as a representative of the vice president, if I'm informed, just CC me on it. That's it. And then I can say, hey, take off, man. I got you covered. Don't worry about it. That's all I'm saying is that whoever was handling it, you can't just handle it through the coach. We have to be filtered in. And if you got to remember that Paul, that's why, even though we're volunteers, that's why myself is here and we have the boys directors and things as well. It's just to cover you, just to back you up and say, hey, I can't just go ahead and make a decision in a circumstance that is not, an emergency. An emergency, I'm just going to say, you do what you got to do.
Steve, we're handling it right now. This happened last month.
Correct.
You're saying, look, you shouldn't fine us. We're agreeing.
Right. And I can almost assure him that at that point that don't worry about it. I don't see us as a board making a thing of this, and then I'm aware of it and I can defend it. So that's all we're asking is that we go through.
So that's the first game, Trish. Yeah. The second one, here's another thing that we have gone back and forth about. As I understand this, Trish, the other team says they're not going to play. We say unless you go down there and show up, you're gonna forfeit. You're gonna forfeit also.
Now, are you talking about the?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about the two Braden River games?
Well, I'm talking about were there two?
There was two. Yes, there was
two Braden. Yeah, the two. Okay, and I think, and I apologize because I only knew what was going on when Sherry included us in the email. And, and I, from reading the email, and Sherry, you can agree or disagree, I think the coaches were just talking amongst themselves.
Right.
To reschedule this. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, geez, my knees. And I emailed internally and I said, guys, you can't do this. You have to go through God Soccer. And I think it's just a matter of us having two new coaches. Now I know that
the education piece. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I took it one step further. I even went through all of our games and I'm emailing the coaches and the directors and I'm like, guys, you all still have games that are pending. You have messages, you need to answer these.
Accept them. Yeah.
Right. Because this happened to us last year. Where a team did not show up and they got fined. And I said, if you do not respond to these requests, vice versa, you have to show up or you're going to get fined. So those two incidences, I think it was just a matter of educating them. And I think there was another one that came through yesterday, right, Sherry, from another team, but they were wanting to do it was a U10 game today. Florida Premier had contacted us yesterday that they didn't have enough players.
And this was U10?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yeah, they were the ones that were canceling, not us.
Yeah. So where was the one, Sherry? Well, I don't know if we did anything, but I mean, where was the match going to happen that Florida Premier didn't have enough players? At your place or at their place?
Are you asking? Oh, you're asking me, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, we were the away team.
So you were coming to Florida Premier.
And this, let's get at that point. We argued about, not argued, we discussed this last year. So we say in our bylaws, you've got to be there, and the Revs got to be there, and then you get the forfeit.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us seem to think that is absurd. If you have good information that says the other team is not going to be there, that you do not put the parents and the kids on the road to go there to stand
just to forfeit a game.
Yes,
right.
It's ridiculous.
Right. Oh, I brought that up a while ago when I was on the bridge
Well,
racing down the Braden River.
We never solved it, but you know.
And I completely agree, and certainly don't want to seem like the unreasonable one. But then, until you change our rules, you know,
I mean,
well, and this is
the rule.
Sherry, this is going to go back to us.
That's just what I'm saying, Sherry. We
have to change that. We have to change that.
We all agreed last year, but for some reason during our time to monkey with the things, I didn't rewrite that. I didn't revise that rule, and I should have, because. So let's take it up.
Can't we make an executive
fines if someone didn't show up, if that is the circumstance?
Is there a way, Paul? Let me ask you this, because I know in the past
we can change rules.
Can we change a rule temporarily and then until
there is a way, and I'll read it. It's not that complicated. It's up to.
I think we need to address this.
Change or put another bylaw in. Oddly enough.
Temporarily until it's adopted.
But let's read and figure out and do it the proper way, because that opens up a can of worms if we're not careful.
No. I agree that we do it properly, but I think this is an issue.
The point in this is that we all agree. Do we all agree that having a team drive to anywhere, knowing there's going to be no one at the field, is absolutely senseless.
Yes, I agree 100%.
As long as the information they are holding is
it's like a rain out.
Well, it's not a reasonable. This
spelled out.
You can't say, "Hey, I didn't think they were going to be there. That's why we didn't show up." You get me? In other words, they've got to.
As long as it goes through proper channels.
Yes. We have to have some good, solid evidence that that's the case, and that's
that's what I'm saying. Can it be done like a rain out, where it has to be officially a form that is filled out so that Sherry is aware that team is not coming, and then Sherry or Greg contact
Sherry? We knew. Sherry's point is it's in our bylaws. Sherry's not. Look, Sherry and Greg are not there to interpret the bylaws.
No, I'm asking the board.
That's their problem. I mean, they're
no, I'm asking the board. Can we make a change to that rule that it does not have to be, you do not have to be at the field as long as the proper channels are followed, and we come up with something.
I'll get together with Sherry and Greg, and we'll research the rule, and we'll research how we can change it if we can.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about, Paul. Steve, can you put this in the back of your mind, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This year, a couple of weeks ago, Braden River and Charlotte. Okay. They both showed up at Braden River. 10 minutes before the match, they both decided not to play the game. And the reason given was that they didn't have an extra AR there. They had a center, they had an AR, and neither one of them wanted to let the field marshal be the
other AR.
Well, that's not but that's a forfeit or whatever we're going to do.
But that's what we're saying here. If they decided
that's a whole different thing, though, Greg. That took it upon themselves to cancel the game.
Well, the two coaches can get together and say, "Well, let's play it on this day instead of here because we just don't want to do it."
Yeah, but we don't recognize that. They can say that all they want.
That's a game schedule.
Like the situation yesterday, though, it was just like, well, we don't have enough players, so we're not going to play, and it was kind of like, here, FYI. But how do you?
Let's go back to that, Sheriff. So the team that has said that forfeits and gets a fine.
Right.
The other team doesn't have to. All my point is the other team
they don't have to show up
to get that forfeit.
Right, but I think if I'm not mistaken, they were also saying like, oh, and by the way, we're going to reschedule it for this day. I just think it's people don't understand. I think they think that there's more flexibility in the schedule than there is.
Well, yeah, there isn't though. In other words, within that certain amount of days, it's a forfeit. Now, if we get
it's a forfeit, there is no reschedule.
Yeah, they forfeited the match.
Okay.
No, unfortunately,
but they didn't.
First, I want to second Steve's motion that we waive the fee here, so we can close that out. We need to second that, and we need to vote on it.
Yes, I make a motion that we. I can't remember what I said.
Yeah.
Rescind all fines or penalties due to the circumstances, under the circumstances of the situation for this team, and allow them to reschedule if they feel it necessary.
Providing the coaches take GOT soccer training.
And then provide they take GOT soccer training, yes.
And,
yes.
Michael, and the team managers and everybody.
You know,
second the motion, excluding Greg's sarcasm.
Well, let me explain. You can't really pass a motion anyway.
Let's do the vote and get it done.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a quorum, Joe. That's why we're not going to vote.
Oh, okay.
Dang it.
Okay.
We will pass it. We're not going to.
Well, just put it out on email that I made the motion. He seconded it, and then we put it in the email.
Yeah,
vote.
we will get it done, but we're gonna hold that in abeyance. That's all we'll do for the moment.
Yeah, just hold it as a first and a second, and then just put it out for a vote.
But that's something. But hey, Trish, one thing, if you could, and I just heard what you said, so I know your help. Because you have the size of your club, and we're the same way. We got a lot of games, and you got a lot of games in a lot of places. If you just help us a little bit, because we get sometimes the TBU guys, it's last minute, and I know that it's just a matter that you got 55 guys there, and you're not, you don't just. It's like trying to herd chickens. I get it. So if you'd help us to some degree, because you're just trying to have a normal schedule where everybody's not doing stuff, where we're not taking Sherry's every week doing another 100 reschedules. To the extent that you can, you could really help us, because you have so many coaches there that it's and new ones, I'm sure that it's and we do. I mean, we have the same issues, so it's
right.
But if you'd help, that'd be just wonderful. And
yes,
I know,
and
what a wonderful person you are, so you're going to help.
Yeah, just enough, and I'm going to also add it to our team manager training as well, because a lot of the coaches tell the team managers, hey, we need to reschedule these games, and the team managers are like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so we'll
that's got to be well,
and
definitely.
If they could see what the 3,500 games that we have to do.
Oh no, I know. Yeah.
Where the issue is, it's not like we're trying to be assholes about it. We're not. It's just it's overwhelming when you're right now in the middle of these weeks in the middle of the season. It is beyond what you can imagine trying to get them all rescheduled.
Oh no, I get it, Paul. Now I'm not worried about yesterday's game. The main concern for me to stay on the phone was these two, or the Braden River game. So are they cleared? Well, you don't know yet, but will they be cleared to go ahead and reschedule those two games?
Which games are we talking about again now? The ones because of the hurricane?
The 20. Yeah, it was the 20th, and I think I'm on my phone, so I don't have my GOT soccer in front of me.
Well,
but I think they had one on the 20th, and then they were supposed to meet again on. What date was it, Sherry?
I think it might have been the week following, wasn't it? I'm not sure.
Okay, so it was due to the circumstances of the hurricane and well, I mean, we don't, like we were just saying, we don't have the ability to vote on it.
Let's just get them rescheduled with understanding that we're going to
get them rescheduled. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sherry, I'll work with you and the coaches on that then.
Okay, great. Yeah, just tell them to put in, change request. I'll probably have to change the date though, or they won't be able to do it. And then, but email me when they do it, because I'm I'm afraid I might tell you they can't again. It's just like
I got your back, Sherry. Don't worry.
Yeah. Send me an email and say you're losing your mind, and can you please?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm done then.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Well.
No, you're not done, Trish. You're done for the moment. Yes.
Yes, I know, Paul. Well, always a pleasure. Thank you all very much.
Okay. Thanks, Trish.
Good night.
Good night.
That being said, Sherry, I'm 100% hearing what you said. Hopefully tonight we got somewhere in getting some help at that from them. I feel like we did. I mean, what Trish said, he acknowledged at least. And you know, I mean, she's in the middle of stuff. Trish is a pretty bright chick, so she can help us there, and let's hope she does. Because they do have a lot of teams. It's
you know me. I mean, I err on the side of customer service, but
I've been party to a lot of the in the last 3 years of the back and forth. So I do understand your discordant thinking, because it's sometimes we've been arguing about stuff we argued back and forth like 10 emails last year when they were wrong. It was just an argument to make an argument. I thought it was asinine. Eventually we got the fine and we fined them. But it seems like she was fairly sincere tonight as to trying to help us not drop these reschedules on us like they do. Because they're bad for that. I agree. I think they're worse than.
Maybe it's just the size of the, the more
that's
games
part
you have.
of it. But I always felt there was a tacit thing like, well, your league doesn't matter, and I think that's where we take offense to it. The back of the hand.
It sounded like she was sincere. It sounded
No. She's good. Trish is a good. I mean, she really is a good egg. She's a good kid. And
you know what I think what people. I think it also goes back to what I said in the very beginning. I do think we've got a little bit of a turnover. We got a lot of new coaches. And as she mentioned, in retrospect, a lot of team managers. And you could have the same coach, but a different team manager. And the coaches probably don't even know. Some of those coaches and a lot of coaches out there have no clue. It's the team manager that knows all the procedures and the rules and the things. Even some, I'll be honest with you, even some directors of coaching don't even know what the rules are as far as rescheduling.
Let's get on to the next. Many issues forfeits during the past month handled by league admin. Is that you, Cher?
Oh, well, you know how normally we list like all the game numbers and we talk about all the issues?
But a lot of the stuff are simple. I mean, if you can make a decision.
So we've just been taking care of numerous ones. Greg will attest, I'm sure. But so that's the reason I don't have them all listed.
I mean, if you've got it and you have bumped it up and made a decision or bumped it to us as a board, you can do that by email too. We've done it.
That's what we've been doing.
Tricky.
We have.
You know, that's fine. If you dispose of them, that's fine.
Okay.
It's the middle of the season. Sherry, this is the worst. I mean, it's the worst time of the year right now, and it'll get better.
Yeah. We do have, gentlemen and Sherry, we do have one game, though, that needs to be discussed quickly, possibly, maybe.
Well, let's get to the end of this, Greg. Let's get done with our things here. Multiple outstanding forfeit fines. So, Greg, I just understood for the first time that you're not sending this to the clubs. You're sending it to the teams.
Right.
So send to the clubs.
Every forfeit fine that's outstanding sent to the clubs, and remind them that if they don't, they will not be in good standing.
If it's just a forfeit, you're right. But most of the forfeits pretty much all of them that we've had, involve some sort of abandonment of a game, suspension for the coach for not being able to control the field.
Well, yeah, but we decided all of that. In other words, we levied a fine, so we don't need to revisit it.
What I'm saying is those did go to the club president, to the club vice president, to the treasurer.
We'll send them again.
I'm sending them to them.
Yeah.
I haven't had one just for a fine yet. This is what I'm getting at. There's always a suspension involved.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, but remind them. I mean, in other words, what I don't want going out is that this, you can't join, you can't go into commissioners because it's not true. We can't.
Understood. Well, I didn't say that to anybody.
We can't threaten them with something that even though you'd like to, or I'd like to. And by this time of the season, I'm sure you'd like to really strangle them. And I don't blame
No, but they won't be able to enter into USA next year. So
right, we have a foolproof method, and our cash flow's fine. So it's not like we're waiting for that money to come in.
Right.
We just want to tell them, hey, if you don't pay it, you understand you will be not in good standing. So might as well get this paid so it's not a surprise. We don't want someone saying at the end of the year, why didn't you tell us we had all these fines?
Right. Understood.
And could join again.
Gotcha.
That's
Number 4.
You know, red card reporting to FYSA clarified. Just so everybody knows, this thing with FYSA wanting our red card reports is absolutely ridiculous, and we are 100% certain that not every league in the state is abiding by this detailed reporting every week or every month. But we're gonna. I mean, it's just a pain in the ass, and it's just more time and more energy taken out of what we could be doing positively to monkey up a report. Sherry has gotten the front end of the report. Now they want more. They want all the
roster and all the supporting documentation for every red card.
Yeah.
Oh, so all those all those supplementals that we can't get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the game report and the roster of
and the
player.
rosters. Wow.
Yes, it's gonna take me forever.
Well, Sherry, what I suggested to Greg, and let's see if we can't do this, is if there's a way to drop them into a file, and if we can't do it, maybe we get somebody who is able to, maybe there's a program that we can drop them off into Excel or something like that, Greg. So you're just dropping them in a file. You're just dropping them in a file.
It's already done. Paul, it's already done.
Okay.
The export we get out of the misconduct report will give them what they need, and then all I have to do is cut and paste the stuff from the game card and the referee stuff right below that.
Okay, great. So you figured out how to do it then.
Well, you cut and paste it. It's at the
yeah, but I mean, you did.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do the roster though, Sherry. Do you have an idea?
I know you can save it as a PDF and send it as an attachment, but that's what I was telling him. Like, there's a lot, so he's going to get a lot of them. You know?
Yeah.
They want. And I didn't understand.
They'll never look at them.
No, that's the thing. It's like, to me, it's just a waste of time. It's busy work.
I didn't understand. Hey, Sherry, was it by week or by month?
By month.
Okay,
but of course, I sent it from, since the start of the season, so it's a lot.
So it's by month. Okay, no problem.
Well, Sherry, as I was explaining to Greg, let me, because you don't go to the FYSA meetings, it was clear this year at the AGM that our league particularly is a pain in the ass for everybody in FYSA because we support so many community clubs, and because of the league, the community clubs are able to thrive to some degree because they're able to play. They've got play. They've got an organized thing between Tarsa and USA and the league in Pinellas. If USA were to go away, right, that would be a tremendous thing for the people that supported the people that got voted in this year. Our Region C president does not look like it on the surface that he got any of the businesses' votes, okay, out of C, which means that they chose not to vote for their own VP, but rather somebody else. That somebody else knows what I know, is he's beholden to those clubs for the votes, and their interests are all aligned, so that to the extent that they can find a way to disenfranchise us because we don't do something, that's dangerous for us, and they would do it. Yeah. So that's why we're going to have to do it, because it's protection for all of our members. It's a pain in the ass, and they will never read those things. And the other thing is, we don't have enough power in the FYSA to bring it to the thing and say, I would like to see everybody